I can smell a bad client coming. I've talked before about spotting potential nightmare clients early. Sometimes they slip through, but overall I've been doing this long enough to sniff that a client's going to be a problem. Let me show you this in practice in a story from earlier this week. A client approached me for comic lettering work. We talked a bit. He had done an early pass on lettering. I turned in a quick example of what I'd like to do, and then I quickly bowed out, all within a few early emails. Why? There was no script, so I'd have to do my lettering from reading the early lettering pass the author did, which, him being untrained, may include balloons in the wrong reading order. I would need to type everything in instead of being able to copy and paste. There was also no character Bible, so I had to ask why a character was speaking the way they were. And after that, the client didn't then think to explain why anyone else was speaking in a curious way in the remaining pages. There were only 6 pages done, but he wanted me to start. The art files were absolutely massive, and were layered with the client's previous lettering, and when I asked for the unlettered files, he said to pull them out myself. Some of his lettering was flattened down into the art layers. The lettering first pass had bad ideas that they insisted on keeping, such as names being colored for different characters and named locations, to the extent that some balloons had multiple varying text colors. The client said my leading, yes, that's how it's pronounced, was too tight for my text. Any of these things is not a deal breaker, but all of this together tells me a few things. Firstly, it tells me you're inexperienced with all of this. Now, inexperienced is not a problem, everyone starts somewhere, but when you combine inexperienced with opinionated and a willingness to criticize a professional's choices, that adds up to a micromanager. If the pages look bad, those choices will seem to be my idea, and I'll have to fight constantly to keep the pages from looking bad. I don't want to spend time explaining to a client as to why having a balloon filled with multiple different colored names is a bad idea. I also don't want to spend time chasing down answers to character direction. Why is this character saying this? What is this suggesting, etc. This should just be accessible information for a letterer, and that I had to ask twice was a massive red flag. Look, the page rate for lettering is pretty low, and it only makes sense if you have everything you need to move quickly. This was going to take about 3 times longer than it should have to get everything right. I could see that from the onset, and I decided to cut bait early. Then the client started demanding to know why I was passing, and they started getting defiant and angry, which always just proves my instincts were good in the first place. The feeling of freedom I got from turning this down, man.